Welcome to the dark side of gaming. Tonight, we're counting down the top 20 horror games of all time. The games that changed the genre, terrified millions, and left permanent scars in the nightmares of players worldwide. Starting off our list at number 20 is Slender, The 8 Pages, a simple concept executed terrifyingly well. You roam a dark forest armed with nothing but a flashlight, collecting pages while Slender Man stalks you from the shadows. Every page ramps up the tension as the sound design tightens like a noose. Its minimalism is exactly what makes it so deeply unnerving. At number 19, The Evil Within drags you into a world where reality constantly twists. From grotesque monsters to surreal, shifting environments, the game never lets you relax. Every chapter feels like a nightmare you must fight your way out of. Its blend of psychological horror and brutal combat delivers scares from every angle. The constant unpredictability keeps players trapped in a cycle of fear and confusion. Number 18 is Darkwood, a top-down horror experience that understands the terror of the unseen better than most first-person games. Set in a corrupted forest, you gather supplies during the day and brace for survival at night as unknown horrors roam outside your barricaded shelter. The game's lighting system creates some of the most unnerving tension in gaming. Your character can only see in a narrow cone of vision, leaving the rest of the world shrouded in oppressive darkness. Every sound outside your door becomes a threat, and every decision feels like a gamble. At 17, Phasmophobia takes ghost hunting and turns it into a truly terrifying co-op experience. Using voice recognition, the game listens to what you say, so when you speak a ghost's name, you're genuinely provoking it. Investigating abandoned houses, prisons and schools becomes a nerve-wracking ordeal as lights flicker, doors slam shut, and breaths echo behind you. The thrill comes from not knowing what type of spirit you're dealing with until it's too late. Where Phasmophobia shines is in its unpredictability. Every haunting is procedurally generated, making no two missions feel alike. The ghost behavior adapts to your actions, forcing constant communication and teamwork to survive. In VR, the fear multiplies. Turning around slowly, only to find a ghost inches from your face, is an experience players never forget. Phasmophobia changed the landscape of multiplayer horror by making fear a group activity. Number 16, Layers of Fear, a descent into the fractured psyche of a tormented painter. You explore a Victorian mansion that twists and reshapes itself as the protagonist's sanity deteriorates. Hallways loop, rooms appear and disappear, and familiar objects morph into grotesque forms. The game uses visual storytelling to unravel a tragic narrative about obsession, loss, and the decaying mind behind a failing masterpiece. Unlike many horror games, Layers of Fear rarely relies on cheap scares. Instead, it weaponizes illusion, forcing players to question every detail around them. You'll turn around only to find the entire room rearranged in total silence, as if the house were watching your movements with surgical precision. The tension builds as the painter's guilt and delusions manifest in disturbing ways, creating an unforgettable psychological nightmare. At 15, Until Dawn brings classic slasher films to life in an interactive, choice-driven story. A group of friends returns to a remote mountain lodge where tragedy struck years earlier, unaware that something sinister is stalking them. Your decisions determine who survives, who dies, and how the story unfolds, making every moment feel loaded with consequence. Jump scares, shocking twists, and chilling atmosphere come together in a cinematic experience like no other. Until Dawn excels at keeping you on edge by constantly reminding you that one wrong move could doom a character. The butterfly effect system ensures even small choices ripple through the narrative in surprising ways. The game also blends multiple horror subgenres, psychological, creature feature, slasher, into a cohesive and gripping story. It's a thrill ride full of tension, emotion, and unforgettable scares. Number 14 is SOMA, a masterpiece of philosophical horror. Set in an underwater research facility after a catastrophic event, the game forces players to confront disturbing questions about consciousness, identity, and what it means to exist. Instead of relying on traditional scares, SOMA focuses on atmosphere and emotional weight. The enemies you encounter are tragic, not evil, reflections of the horror born from technological desperation. The true terror of SOMA lies in its ideas. As you uncover the truth of the facility's experiments, the game challenges your perception of life and humanity in unsettling ways. Its ending is one of the most haunting in gaming, leaving players reflecting long after walking away. SOMA proves that horror doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers truths you're afraid to hear. At number 13, Resident Evil 7 resurrected the franchise with a bold shift to first-person survival horror. You step into the shoes of Ethan Winters as he searches for his missing wife in the decaying Baker family estate. What begins as a rescue mission quickly spirals into a claustrophobic nightmare filled with grotesque creatures, distorted human figures, and whispered secrets lurking inside every mold-covered room. RE7's immersive perspective amplifies every sound, shadow, and sudden movement, making you feel trapped inside a haunted house that wants you dead. What sets RE7 apart is its oppressive atmosphere. The Baker family members aren't just monsters, they're characters with disturbing personalities that make every encounter feel personal and unpredictable. The game blends body horror, psychological torment, and traditional survival mechanics into a terrifying whole. By returning to slower pacing and resource management, Resident Evil 7 recaptured the pure dread the series was originally known for, reinventing itself while honouring its roots. Number 12 is Five Nights at Freddy's, a game that turns simple mechanics into a global horror obsession. You sit alone in a dark security office, watching cameras, conserving power, and praying that the animatronics wandering the pizzeria don't reach your door. The tension rises with each tick of the clock as metallic footsteps echo through empty halls and robotic faces appear suddenly in your cameras. The minimalist design forces your imagination to fill in the terrifying blanks. What truly made this game a phenomenon was its deep, mysterious lore. Seemingly innocent children's characters become symbols of tragedy, possession, and unsolved crimes, inspiring years of theories and community speculation. Jump scares are only half the horror. The story lurking beneath the surface is what keeps fans hooked. Five Nights at Freddy's proved that horror doesn't need complex graphics, just good sound, timing, and an idea that crawls under your skin. At number 11, The Last of Us isn't just a masterpiece of storytelling, it's a gritty, emotional horror experience. While the narrative focuses on the bond between Joel and Ellie, the world they traverse is filled with infected creatures whose disturbing movements and clicking sounds create unbearable tension. Abandoned buildings echo with distant groans, and every encounter with a clicker feels like a life or death test of stealth and nerve. The horror feels grounded, realistic, and fueled by human desperation. But the game's darkest moments often come not from monsters, but from people. The Last of Us explores the cruelty, paranoia, and moral decay that emerges when society collapses. Every choice feels heavy, and every loss leaves an emotional scar. Blending survival horror with narrative depth, The Last of Us shows that sometimes the most haunting part of any apocalypse is how it changes the survivors. Breaking into the top 10 is Bloodborne, from Software's gothic nightmare dripping with atmosphere and cosmic dread. You awaken in the plague-ridden city of Yharnam, surrounded by twisted beasts, insane townsfolk, and creatures that defy human understanding. The game's fast-paced combat keeps your adrenaline high, but it's the haunting world-building and environmental storytelling that carve fear deep into your mind. Every enemy feels like the byproduct of a world descending into madness. As the game unfolds, Bloodborne shifts from gothic horror to full-blown cosmic terror. The more you uncover about the Great Ones and the eldritch influence behind the plague, the clearer it becomes that your character is just another pawn in a nightmare far bigger than humanity. Its cryptic lore rewards curiosity while deepening the sense of unease. Bloodborne isn't just scary, it's unsettling in a way only cosmic horror can achieve. At number 9, Fatal Frame 2 stands as one of the most atmospheric and emotionally chilling horror games ever made. Equipped with only the camera obscura, you are forced to confront ghosts not by running, but by facing them head-on and photographing them. This mechanic creates a uniquely intimate horror. As the closer the spirit comes to harming you, the stronger your shot becomes. The rural village setting, abandoned and filled with tragedy, adds a timeless eeriness to every location. What makes Fatal Frame 2 unforgettable is its sorrowful narrative. The ghosts you encounter often have heartbreaking backstories, turning fear into empathy and creating emotional layers rarely seen in horror. The game's twin sister storyline unfolds like a dark folktale, full of ritual, sacrifice, and loss. This blend of haunting visuals, chilling audio design and tragic storytelling makes Fatal Frame 2 a masterpiece of supernatural horror.
It's all because we ran away.
Number 8 is the Resident Evil 2 Remake, a stunning revival of one of survival horror's foundational games. The Raccoon City Police Department is transformed into a maze of claustrophobic hallways, flickering lights, and locked rooms hiding dangerous secrets. Zombies are more threatening than ever, with unpredictable movement and terrifying durability that make every encounter feel consequential. The remake's pacing and intensity keep players constantly on the defensive. And then there's Mr. X. The towering tyrant relentlessly stalks you through the precinct, his heavy footsteps echoing through the halls long before you see him. His presence alone elevates the tension to unbearable levels. Combine that with modern graphics, enhanced gameplay, and atmospheric sound, and Resident Evil 2 Remake becomes one of the greatest reimaginings in gaming history. At number 7, Alien. Isolation brings the terror of Ridley Scott's iconic xenomorph to life with painstaking detail. Playing as Amanda Ripley, you navigate a derelict space station with almost no means of defense. Your only hope is to hide, listen, and pray. The alien stalking you doesn't hear your breath. Its AI is intelligent, adaptive, and merciless, making every encounter feel unpredictable and genuinely life-threatening. The visual and audio design perfectly recreate the retro-futuristic aesthetic of the original film. The tension is relentless. Every hiss, every distant clatter sends your heartbeat skyrocketing. Isolation doesn't rely on cheap jump scares, it weaponizes suspense. This game delivers one of the most authentic, nerve-shredding horror experiences ever created. At number 6, Dead Space immerses you in one of the most terrifying sci-fi settings ever created. You step into the boots of Isaac Clarke, an engineer answering a distress call from the USG Ishimura, a planet-cracking mining vessel drifting silently in deep space. But when you arrive, the crew is gone, the corridors are splattered with blood, and something unimaginable has taken hold of the ship. The silence is broken only by distant metallic groans, malfunctioning lights, and the sudden, sickening appearance of necromorphs, twisted reanimations of human bodies reshaped into hostile monstrosities. What makes Dead Space truly horrifying is the feeling of isolation that never lets go. You aren't a soldier, you're just an engineer, fighting with improvised tools, forced to strategically dismember creatures that won't stop coming. Every room, hallway, and elevator feels like a trap, and every shadow seems alive. The remake intensifies this dread with upgraded visuals, dynamic lighting, and an atmospheric soundscape that makes the Ishimura feel like a living, breathing nightmare. Dead Space remains a masterclass in tension and sci-fi terror, setting a benchmark that few games have ever matched.
But we don't have much time.
Number 5 is the legendary PT, a playable teaser that redefined psychological horror in under an hour of gameplay. Set in a single looping hallway, the game uses repetition to build dread with masterful precision. Each loop subtly changes. A door cracks open, a picture shifts, a radio whispers something darker, making you question your own perception. And then there's Lisa, the spectre who follows you, watches you, and occasionally appears where you least expect her. PT became a cultural event, sparking a massive community of theorists trying to uncover its hidden secrets. The game's cryptic puzzles and audio messages fueled a deeper mystery that players obsessed over for years. Even without combat, inventory, or complex mechanics, it created one of the most terrifying atmospheres ever put to screen. Its cancellation only strengthened its legacy, cementing PT as one of gaming's greatest what-if tragedies. At number 4, Outlast traps you inside Mount Massive Asylum with nothing but a camcorder to navigate the pitch-black corridors. You play as journalist Miles Upshur, investigating a facility overrun with violent, deranged inmates and unspeakable biological experiments. With no weapons and no way to defend yourself, every encounter becomes a desperate sprint for survival. The night vision mode on your camera turns darkness into a grainy, glowing nightmare where every noise feels like a predator closing in. The chase sequences are some of the most intense moments horror gaming has ever produced. Enemies roar behind you as you scramble through vents, leap over obstacles, and hide in lockers, praying they don't rip the door off. Outlast thrives on panic. The feeling that you're one mistake away from brutal death, its raw, relentless pace permanently changed what players expect from indie horror. Amnesia. The Dark Descent takes the number 3 spot as one of the most unsettling psychological horror games ever made. You awaken inside a decaying Prussian castle with no memory of who you are or how you got there, guided only by a cryptic note written in your own handwriting. Every hallway is swallowed in thick darkness, every door creaks with the threat of something waiting on the other side, and every faint sound in the distance reminds you that you are never truly alone. The atmosphere is suffocating, built on silence, shadow, and the disturbing sense that the castle itself is watching you. What makes Amnesia so terrifying is the feeling of complete helplessness. You have no weapons and no way to fight back against the twisted creatures stalking you through the halls. Your only tools are your wits, your ability to hide, and whatever light you can manage to keep burning. Even that comes with a cost, as your sanity slips away the longer you stay in darkness or witness horrors too monstrous to comprehend. The game plays with your senses, blurring your vision, distorting the world around you, and making you doubt every shadow that moves at the edge of your sight. Resident Evil 4 earns its place near the top of any horror ranking as one of the most influential and groundbreaking games ever created. You play as Leon S. Kennedy, sent to a remote European village to rescue the president's kidnapped daughter, but nothing about this mission is what it appears to be. The moment you encounter the infected villagers, known as the Ganados, you realize you are facing enemies far more intelligent, aggressive, and organized than anything the series had introduced before. The village, the farm, and the surrounding environments feel alive, hostile, and unpredictable, creating tension that never lets up. The pacing of Resident Evil 4 is one of its greatest strengths. Almost every area introduces a new threat, a new weapon, or a new twist that pushes you to adapt. Memorable encounters like the village siege, the monstrous lake creature, and the first encounter with the terrifying regenerators are burned into gaming history. The over-the-shoulder camera brought a new level of intensity to combat, making every shot feel precise and every mistake feel costly. Even outside of combat, the eerie atmosphere, isolated setting, and unsettling cult imagery keep you on edge long before any monster appears. Resident Evil 4 did not just change the franchise, it reshaped the entire landscape of action and horror gaming. Finally, the number one entry on this list is Silent Hill 2, a game that remains one of the most haunting and emotionally devastating experiences in horror history. The story begins with James Sunderland returning to the fog-shrouded town of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his wife, even though she died years ago. From the moment James steps into the cold, empty streets, the world around him feels thick with grief, guilt, and unspoken truths. The town becomes a mirror of his emotional state, twisting reality into disturbing shapes that reflect the darkness he carries within himself. The monsters James encounters are not random creatures, but manifestations of his own inner torment. Pyramid Head, the most iconic figure in the game, is not just a terrifying enemy, but a physical representation of James's guilt and punishment. The dark hallways, crumbling buildings, and eerie silence create an atmosphere that gets under your skin long before anything jumps out. Even the music and sound design carry emotional weight, blending melancholy melodies with unsettling ambient noise that lingers in your mind long after the game is over. What makes Silent Hill 2 so unforgettable is the depth of its storytelling. Every character James meets, every location he explores, and every ending he can reach reveals another layer of the truth he has been trying to escape. Is not just a scary game, it is a masterpiece of psychological storytelling that continues to shape the horror genre more than 2 decades later. And that brings us to the end of our journey through the top 20 horror games of all time. Each of these titles left its mark on the genre in a different way, shaping how we experience fear, tension, and storytelling in games. From psychological nightmares to desperate struggles for survival, these games challenged us, scared us, and stayed with us long after we turned off the screen. Thank you for staying and watching the video all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this countdown and want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. Your support means everything and helps the channel keep growing. Let me know in the comments which game terrified you the most and what list you want to see next. Until next time, stay safe, stay brave, and keep playing in the dark.